Welcome to Sports Geek, the podcast built for sports digital and sports business professionals. And now here's your host, who keeps applying his geek skills to better understand how to leverage AI. You'll find out how in this episode.
Hey everyone, welcome to Sports Geek. My name is Sean Callanan, and for this week, you're listening to a very special edition. I've been thinking about content automation and AI a lot lately. It's not just hype, it's something that we're using every day, and we keep finding more use cases across the sports business world. So for this episode, I turned to one of my favorite assistants, and yes, I have multiple, but in this case, I used ChatGPT to help me shape this episode. What I asked ChatGPT was, what questions should I answer for my podcasting audience on the things that we are doing in the world of coding and automation and using AI? If you didn't know, I was a geek before Sports Geek, a long-time computer programmer. But in the last 6 months, I've coded more than I have in the last 15 years, thanks to my vibe coding buddies, Claude and Replit. So together with ChatGPT, we've come up with 10 questions around the topic of content automation and AI. And I think every digital team should be looking at these questions and start asking themselves how they can automate some content, make their lives easier, create content at scale, blending the advantages of AI with good old-fashioned storytelling, what really drives growth across all things digital. So for this episode, rather than me just read out the script that ChatGPT provided, what we've done is we've actually used 11 Labs. We've been using 11 Labs for a while now for our intros and ad reads. So we've got 10 different cloned voices reading the questions for something different. So play around with the new format. And that's what we do here at Sports Geek. We play around with the tools to understand how they can be best used for you in your roles in helping teams connect better with fans. And trust me, all the answers that you get in this episode are me. They're not my clone voice like we do use in our daily podcast, Rapid Rundown. It's 100% me. Trust me. I have not yet moved into playing around with HeyGen and cloning the video. So if you want proof, go watch the video on YouTube. But let's get into it. And we want to get into it with obviously question one.
Where do you draw the line between content automation and creativity when building for fans?
So this is a good one. And I guess this is the one that sort of goes to the point of people saying, hey, we don't want every bit of content to be AI. For mine, content automation handles volume and structure, handles things, repetitive tasks. And where you want humans involved is in that tone and storytelling and that creativity side. So what we look to do first is to automate the things that can be automated that don't require a lot of tone and storytelling and structure and creativity. So how can you automate some of the groundwork, some of the things that you do on a regular basis that then help your creatives and give them a head start on what they're trying to do? Now, whether that's analyzing big slabs of stats to say what are the interesting stats we should be highlighting, whether that be summarizing articles to give a more succinct message in what you're trying to do in social because you want to hit that nice, short and sharp copy, or ideating ideas on what you should do. So, we use that for the Rapid Rundown in tagging articles, summarizing articles, figuring out which articles should be included, creating a script for those articles. They're all done using content automation and leveraging AI to build some of those scripts and to build some of those components. So from my point of view, content automation should be used to lessen the amount of work that your team and your creatives have to do. And we're already starting to see that with tools that break down longer form videos into shorter form videos. That is content automation and AI doing those tasks. You still have to be the ones to do it, but that's where we look at it. That's the first point for us. Look at how you can use automation to create a job that was taking an hour and a half. Can that job be done in 15 minutes? Well, then you've gone and freed up an hour for your team. So that's what we're looking for when we're looking at content automation. From a creativity point of view, we're looking for the inspiration, and it's no different to looking at other teams' Instagram feeds or other teams' TikToks to go, what's the creativity? You can also point AI and automation into analysing those kind of things. So there's some really exciting parts there, but for mine, the automation piece is the volume and structure. It's how can you lessen the load on your team. The really easy one is the 45-minute press conference. Previously, someone would have had to listen and read or listen to that whole press conference to find the best quotes. Now you can get it summarized quickly. You can get it transcribed quickly. You can get out the best edit points. They're the key things that you want to do. Let's go to question 2. Jess, can you play question 2?
2. What's your process for deciding what should be automated versus handcrafted when publishing across platforms?
It's a bit similar. It's like finding out where the creativity is best used. So the question I ask myself is it repeatable? Is it data-driven? And is it time-consuming? Then that's a candidate for automation. And so then the piece comes, what can you generate for it, and what is it worth doing? And so for us, we sort of look at content in tiers. There's always going to be room in feeds and content creation for premium, high visibility content that is handcrafted. So these are handcrafted videos and interviews stitched together, following specific trends, those kind of things, high-end graphics, high-end motion graphics, illustrations, those kind of pieces that really do pop, that really do elevate what you're trying to do. But then that tier 2 is that evergreen post, that stat-heavy post, something that can be quickly validated and generated from the data that you've got. And so those kind of pieces of content get into this automated with oversight. You want to make sure you're still doing the checks and the balances to make it right, but you can get that content automated quite quickly. And there's a lot of tools now in market that either give you API access into designs or are producing them straight out of the tools themselves. I think there'll be more and more of those. I think you should be looking for more and more of those opportunities, and then potentially looking at where do they fit? What are the platforms that they fit? Will we see more of that type of content on X or on other platforms that are these quick form platforms? I think there is an opportunity there. And then tier 3 is that utility content. It's content that can be fully automated. I mean, that sort of falls more into its spot of content that you want to get to a point where you've got very much definite data around it. So game times and those kind of things. We've actually done something similar that's in that. It's almost tier 3. We're probably going to get it to tier 3 by next season. But it was an experiment that we did with some of the NFL content to do game previews where we took the NFL Network preview, YouTube, transcribed it, and then from that transcription, we generated multiple versions of what the preview tweet might be. And so it's probably at the moment still in tier 2 because we were able to say, here's a particular highlight or here's a particular matchup and here's the time. But we're potentially getting to a point where it can be tier 3 and completely automated, and it just automatically says, here's who's playing, here's the game times, here's how to tune in, and by the way, here's a game preview on YouTube. So there's opportunities in there, but it's looking at, is it repeatable, is it data-driven, is it time-consuming? I guess part of the thing is when we're doing a content review, we sort of assess things, you're doing all of these things, and there's a little bit of, is it worth it? And so for us, and that's where you sort of decide, should you be still doing this piece of content? And you might be doing it for a specific reason, a specific fan group, or if it's a specific sponsor, or it's just, it's something that your fans expect, but it takes a lot of time. It's that time-consuming bit. This is the place where automation can help you produce that content or produce more content. I think that's the piece that is important. And yeah, it's not. And like I just said, like I said before, those tier 1 and tier 2 pieces are still going to definitely require, human intervention and humans' involvement. Let's fire up question 3.
3. How can AI-generated content be used responsibly in sports without diluting the club's brand voice?
This is a really good point, and it's a current topic on social media with the use of the M-dash. If you don't know what the M-dash is the double like minus sign together, and apparently the double minus sign together is a grammatical thing that AI uses. Here you go. You can really now realize that ChatGPT isn't writing this, and that's a way to detect that AI is being used. But what you can do is, if you are using, in this case, AI to help generate content being text, you can train models and you can provide rather large and verbose tone and regional slang guides for what you're wanting to do in your content. And so you can do that. And so there's that piece of setting up guides to say, this is how you should write, tweet, post in our languages and in our tone. Much in the same way, we'd all love to have them, our own brand guides that should be followed all the time, and this is how social gets done. But sometimes it's really the person who's behind the thumbs that sort of starts shifting the tone, and you can see that sometimes when social media executives move from one team to another or move away from the accounts and a new person's done. Ideally, you have a guide that says, here's how we would like to be posting on social. So the first thing is making sure you've got that guide and be able to feed that guide into any prompt or any model that you're going to use. The second thing, and I think this is that a lot of people do the first thing, hey, please write me this tweet, or please write me this tweet with our style. The other thing I think what people don't do is also realize that you can have multiple AI, bots and processes, automation processes, one that does the writing and one that does the checking, one that does the brand filter. And so, and raises those flags. So you effectively write and you can construct your own bots and your own processes that will be a quality assurance layer. And so that's the part that I think is really powerful, is if you can, one, start writing, using automation to write content or produce the starting point of content, but then also have a QA layer that checks that content, checks it for mistakes. And so that's an important part. But then the other important part is also putting humans in the middle as well and figuring out where they can fit. And I'll sort of touch on that later. But to the answer to the question, can AI generated content be in the brand voice, in the club's brand voice? My answer is yes. As long as you put the work in to say, here's the things we want our brand to say, here's how we want them to say it, and also here's the things we don't want it to say as a starting point, a brand guide. And one of the cool things you can do with content automation and using AI is say, here's the last 1,000 tweets, here's the last 1,000 Facebook posts, here's what we've posted on Instagram over the past year. And you can actually feed that into a model and actually ask it to come back and tell you what the voice is, to tell you what you are actually doing now. And sometimes that's a really enlightening way to, one, assess what your current tone is on social. So that's another sort of a hack to build your own team tone, social tone guide and the like from what you've already done in the past. And it's a really good way, again, it's a really good handover document too if you are moving from one social media executive to another one. So that piece alone, I think, is really, really valuable, and also, can be used to, improve, tighten up, try not to have those mismatches of, especially if you've got multiple people running the accounts, because you could be just running the QA filter and the QA layer on all of your people if you would like. Hey, I want this sense checked, and you could be running it through a simple bot that might be sitting in your Slack. How does this copy look like? And it might come back with 4 or 5 different versions of it. So they're the kind of things that you can do in in building different models and building different automations that can help your team, I guess, level up their content.
4. What are the biggest misconceptions sports teams have about content automation?
So there's a few. There's a few. I guess the main one is it'll replace jobs. We won't need these people, and that's not the case. What it does do is it shifts some roles. You still will need writers, but they become editors and curators. If bulk content gets created, let's say a transcript of a press conference gets loaded in and it's asked then to create an article, well, then you've got an article that's 80, 90%, might be 95% ready to go. But you'll still make sense to have an editor clean it up, change some things, realize that something is more important than something else. So I think that's piece. It doesn't change it, but it does reduce the amount of work that person did when they pretty much took their recording device and recorded the press conference, were in the press conference, and then they have to go and write the article. So it shifts the roles a little bit. There is some misconception that it'll save time instantly. I don't think instantly is exactly correct, because there's a lot of front-loaded setup. So there is things like loading in, understanding where your data is, connecting your data to the potential automation tools, and training particular models to know what to do with that data, and understanding what those steps are, and then testing that those steps work. So it's not an instant thing, but I do think it is an opportunity to save a lot of time. One of the other misconceptions is that it's only available for teams with big budgets. The one thing I can say about, using AI, using automation, small teams can win with smart and scrappy automations. And I think the Sports Geek team is an example of that. We've been able to build out a full content curation system using Make and Claude and ChatGPT, and leveraging tools like Airtable. We've built products with Replit. All of the things that we've built in the last 6 months would have cost us thousands of dollars a couple of years ago without these things, just in development costs and hosting costs and data transaction costs. So there are a lot of things you can build with all of these code and automation tools. So it's not something for big teams, big budgets. I think it is a matter of figuring out what those particular things are. But yeah, you could do something as simple as a Instagram reply bot, and that can be built. You're not going and buying a tool. Or you could build something that automatically responds and sends an email to someone who fills out a form on a landing page. They're the kind of things that can happen quite quickly with content automation and this term vibe coding. But yeah, my main thing is it's really accessible. It's not overly expensive. And the thing is, it definitely doesn't replace jobs, but it is a great tool for your teams to do more.
5. What are the low-hanging fruit for automation in a typical weekly content calendar?
This is a good one, because I think this is back to the point of what's ripe for automation. And they're things that are repeatable, that are time-consuming, and that are backed with data. And so, things like match previews with player stats and past meetings and kickoff info, game day guides, even match reports. Like, again, in my time at Sports Geek, when we started in 2009, people were still writing match reports on the web, and that has gone. That has gone by the wayside because resourcing and people aren't going there anymore. So what we're seeing skinnier and less volume on actual club websites. But is there a place for those highly informational rich that are really text based, that do pull in a bunch of data that can be a bit time consuming, like when did they last meet? What were the stats in the last game? When does the game start? When do the gates open? All of this info is available, and in some cases programmatically. They're the pieces that are absolutely right for content automation. And then the same goes for, whether it be injury reports, post-match stats, those kind of things. If there's a way for you to go to another website or a feed you can be keeping a check on what are the latest updates, that's something that can be automated. That's pretty much what we've done with our daily news rundowns that form the basis for the Sports Geek Rapid Rundown. We're looking at RSS feeds. We're looking at searching for particular phrases. We're pulling in all that data, and we're able to create a daily blog that gets sent to me and my team every morning that we review, and then we hit publish on our website. And so that previously was a task that I was doing manually, tagging, saving, then copying, and then pushing it into a WordPress, and then pasting it, and then hitting publish. So I stopped doing that because it was too time consuming, but I was able to bring it back because we're about able to automate 95% of it. As I said before, there's now more tools available with templating and APIs to do social graphics, or to do some graphics with APIs, with stat-based stuff. There's some stat tools that are now pulling together on pulling that graphic together on an event in a match. So those kind of things. And then the other part is that fan reminders, things like sending specific messages at specific times of the day. That they're things that are getting more and more ripe for automation. So there's lots of low hanging fruit. One of the ones that I do pick on a lot is the press conference, that the coach will do, whether it be post-match or midweek or pre-game. There's always a quote there. There's always a clip there. So again, how can you take that process of, here's the video file, it gets transcribed, here's the 4 or 5 quotes, can it be automatically populated into a design in Adobe or a design in another tool that allows those APIs, and then your team has got that graphic already done with the quote on it, ready to go, and all they have to do is either select a photo or take that clip of the video. So they're the things that become low-hanging fruit. Still want to make sure that content is of value to your fans, is hitting the right platform, all of those kind of things. But they're the things of how do you get that piece of content to that point as quickly as possible so they can be working on it, and in most cases, finishing it off. Let's go to question number 6.
6. How do you handle approvals and compliance when AI is creating or helping draft content?
So this, you can replace when AI is creating to when junior staff member is creating. Right now, that's how you should be using AI, and that's how you should be treating AI. AI is a junior staff member. It's not just a tool that everyone can use, which it is, but if you're going to start using it, where it becomes most beneficial is if you start treating it like a staff member, and you just have the same workflow that you would with a regular staff member. Draft, review, publish makes the most sense. Now, when you're building out an automation and you're trying to get that process working as best possible, what is a good way to do is actually insert human review steps. And so the process we went through to go from researching and curating news links to creating a blog post to sending an automatic email to scripting a podcast to recording a podcast in my voice to publishing a podcast, we ran steps along every one of those steps until we got it to a point where it was refined enough we were happy with it. And so in the first couple of iterations, we were just testing the first piece. Can we get the news? Can we get the news? Can we get the articles? And can we build a site to look at what those articles are? And that's what Sports Geek Reads is. If you go to reads.com, reads.sportsgeekhq.com, I should say. And then we started getting the email. So we're sending an internal email to our team to say, this is what the email is going to look like. How does it look? Do we want to change the formatting? Is the content inside the email correct? What would we change? And then we started working on the piece to automatically publish it to our site. Our site is in WordPress, but it could have been any different CMS. Again, started publishing it, putting it in draft mode. Does this look right? What do we need to do? And so now that process is relatively bedded down. We did the latest tweak was tweaking the look and feel of the WordPress site to make it look pretty. And so now all we do is we get that draft WordPress post and it's sitting there ready to be reviewed. Oh, that link's broken, or oh, we don't like that article, we don't want to include it, or we don't want to include that article because we don't agree with it, or it doesn't fit under that heading. And so now we're pretty much back into, like I was saying before, that curation mode, deleting, editing mode. And so we delete one or two posts, or we make a change here or there, and then we hit publish. And so that's where I think, and that's the same process that I was doing manually over the past 10 years to curate Sports Geek News and 400 emails that I've sent out to the Sports Geek News community. And we've just slowly but surely put those same checks and balances in. And it's always good to, you should always have a human in the loop. You're always going to have someone signing something off. So that's the piece. I think you should be following your same process. You should just be treating AI as a junior staff member. Let's go to question 7.
7, what does a good human plus machine content workflow look like in practice?
Yeah, so I sort of touched on this one a little bit in the last question, but human plus machine content workflow is that piece, that person in the middle. And I guess, where our case is sort of using it for the rapid rundown pipeline, AI tags the articles, AI categorizes the articles. It gets somewhere between 180 and 250 articles a day. We then ask it to come up with the best 20 over a bunch of different headings with our audience avatar in mind. Hey, this is a sports business audience. They listen to the podcast. They want some interesting articles on the world of sports and technology and professional sports and a bit of AI and a bit of geekiness, because that's who I am. And then we want some interesting stuff to read. And so that piece, we've leveraged and used AI, because I'm not going to go in as much as I would like and much as I have. I think I'm pretty well read and I click on a lot of things to see if they're worth reading. I'm not going to read every one of those articles, but we were checking to find, hey, what are the things working? So we set up the pieces, but then the human part of it is I also have a captain's call. So I at any point see an article and I can save it through another process. We use Raindrop, which is a bookmarking tool. I've used it for ages. So I bookmark it and I tag it with something specifically, and it gets chucked into the list. And by the way, if it has that tag, it's got a bit of extra. It's like giving it a bit of extra sauce in the algorithm to say, hey, this has been hand selected by Sean and needs to be added. And then the other parts of the, I guess, human in the machine are those checkpoints of here's the publishing, but the publishing is sitting in draft. And so, we make sure we check that WordPress site, blog post, we vet it, and then we hit publish. And then over time, we watched what Claude wrote for the script. We tried a few different script writers. We tried ChatGPT. We tried Claude. We ended up liking what Claude was producing from a podcast script point of view. The first, and Jess will probably tell me after the podcast, the first 30 episodes, we had a step in there that said, review the podcast script. And so the podcast script would come through and be loaded into our Slack, and we would read it. And occasionally we'd say, and now here's the intro, or here's the outro. And we're like, well, no, we don't want you to reference the outro. Just give the outro. So we found some of those glitches, allowed it to say, no, try again, run it again. And then we went to, it was already ready to go. And all we had to do was say, yes, it's ready. Click the button, and it was ready to be published. Now we do that in post. So we're still seeing the script come through. We still check it, but we only go and edit it or delete it or stop it if it's wrong. And so I'd say maybe one podcast in every 20 has a mistake where we go, oh, actually it hasn't done that right. We go and delete the podcast and rerun it and rerun the process. So you can set up different edit points or different pause points where the human is in the middle. And again, that's the piece where we just work on what the process is, how we go about it, and then what works for us. And that's the piece where I think you've got to figure it out. But it's super important to be able to have that human verification, signing it off. And if you are, super brand safe and have to do everything, you don't have to have it automated straight to production like we do. You can have it automated completely to create the final product, which you can listen to, have fun, and then you go publish it yourself. So they're the pieces. You don't have to be as, pushing the envelope as we are, because, you get to decide the process, the workflow that you want. And so that might mean here's a piece of content that's completely generated and it just gets dropped in your Slack that someone can pick up and then they can decide how they post it. Or you can go, oh, here's the bit of content. It's get ready. It's going to get posted. It's going to get tweeted straight away.
8. How do you ensure content automation supports, rather than replaces, the storytelling side of sports?
For me, this goes back to, that categorization of different types of content. I think tier 1 content, which requires humans to really drive that storytelling piece, is still going to be required. I do not think at all that all content will be replaced by AI. Fans don't remember stats; they remember feelings and moments. And I think good storytellers are able to pull those moments out and make those feelings happen with content. Automation can enrich stories. It can provide extra context. It can provide you with extra context around a particular story. It can provide you with different ideation and different options around the content. One of the tools that we use a lot, and it's worth checking out just for the way that it goes about doing it, is a tool called Opus Clip. It's a tool that Jess will take my interviews with a guest, and that'll just be a side-by-side video, and it will go and analyze the transcript and then look at the transcript and some of the conversation pieces for the content and the pieces of content of most interest, and it cuts up the content and it puts the captions on. So it's something that's worthwhile using for if you have long-form video and long-form video with obviously you need words. It can't just be a highlights package because it doesn't really work that effective in there. But it shows you how you can take long-form storytelling into short-form storytelling. But AI needs the long-form storytelling to be able to create those short-form pieces. So I think that's where AI content automation can support it in enriching your stories, giving you other options and other ways to tell those stories, surface and find, fan relevant nuggets, whether it be, from that stats. And then other things are some of the repeatable narrative formats that you're potentially seeing, whether it be top 5 plays, 3 things you miss, underrated performances, those things that you're probably doing that are storytelling. Again, treating AI and content automation like a junior staff member. What are the instructions you're giving the staff member to come up with that content thread to say, hey, here's the content we want to build every single week? What's the recipe for that? If you've got a recipe for that you can hand over to a junior staff member, I would contend that eventually you can hand that over to content automation and have that built to a high level. They're the things that I would look at around content automation, how you can support. And like I said, it's not replacing teams, but I think it is enabling teams to push out more content. I mean, if you look at tools like WSC's Clip Pro, the fact that it's analyzing, it's doing what AI and content automation does at its best. It's analyzing the content, it's rating the content, it's telling you what content will work well and giving you the clips and the cuts for it. So again, if you're saying, hey, we're not using AI and we're not using content automation, if you're using a tool like Clip Pro, which if you are, you're lucky to do so, that's tools using AI and content automation. All right, getting close to wrapping these up. Let's go to question 9.
9. What KPIs or feedback loops do you use to evaluate the effectiveness of automated content?
So again, it's the same as any content. It should be graded. It should be graded in the same means of any content that's created. But one of the things you want to look at is, engagement per time invested. So again, a lot of times when we're doing a content review, some of the times it's really being really harsh, but assessing the content, is it worth continuing to do? Are people engaging with it? Is it cutting through? Is it reaching what our goals are for our fans or for our partners? Those kind of things. So that should be the same as any other content that you build. But then the other thing that you can be doing is doing some tests, whether that be an A/B test with captions on your YouTube clip written by your editor versus captions written by AI. And I think this is one that you should be sort of diving into what Mr. Beast is doing with YouTube thumbnails. There's a lot of work being done with testing what different thumbnails work. Again, a thumbnail created by your graphic designer versus a thumbnail created by AI. They're the things that I think make sense in playing around with AI and automated content. So I think, you want to be checking, what the wins you are getting. And then the other thing is also listen to the fans. I mean, there has been some pretty over-the-top feedback to some content that gets produced with AI, whether that's be the graphic content and the like. And there is a bunch of people that say we hate AI content, we don't want AI content. I still think some of those might be like the loud minority. A lot of the people that do talk on social media and complain on social media are a loud minority. And in some instances, that is the case for a lot of people complaining about AI. But I think what you want to do is actually get your content to a point and get your processes to a point where no one notices it's AI. Whether that's, like I said, the captions on YouTube, a short recap of what the press conference was, but it's still being consumed, still being asked for. That's what you're looking for. If your AI content or your content that's generated AI looks disingenuous, unauthentic, and looks like AI, then it most likely will fail. So it's not just a matter of, that's where you are getting into AI slop territory. So I think what you want to do is again, rather than looking at AI as a tool, here's a tool we're using, here's a junior staff member, which I think will become more senior as we go and become more powerful and will have more skills, much like a junior staff member, but treat them in that way, train them in what you want, but then also assess their content in the same way. Question number 10.
10. What advice would you give to a digital team wanting to start small with AI but not sure where to begin?
So the first thing is start with one bottleneck. Okay, what's one thing that's repetitive and valuable? So that's the second part is super important, because you can always go, this takes me ages, I want to fix it. And it's like, but if it's not worth doing, then it's not worth doing. So what's something that you're doing repetitively that is valuable? What can we insert into that? How can we use AI and automation to help with that? So that's the first thing. Look for those bottlenecks, like, but we've always done it this way. This always takes me 3 hours. This is what my Friday afternoons always look like. Those kind of questions are the things that we always get in an AI discovery workshop, where people go, we could do it a different way. And so that's the first thing. Process improvement, productivity, they're the first wins. Then the second thing would be start looking at the no code, vibe coding, just the tools that are available. ChatGPT, Claude, Make, Google Sheets, like all tools that are relatively lightweight, don't cost you a lot. You're talking about less than $100 a month. If not, that would be the maximum, and maybe that's just because the Australian dollar is so terrible at the moment. But less than $100 a month, you can get enough tools to be able to build something that works for you and your team. Yes, some of those things will expand if you're giving a bunch of people different access to the same tools, admittedly, but that's the first thing. You can build a few things for it. And then the next second thing, I keep saying second, all right, no, second thing, but then the next thing would be start looking at what piloting content might look like, and what that might be. And again, the process that we took was a very iterative approach where we did a short cycle to every 2 or 3 days. We tweaked it and added a bit more to it, but it was all internal. So for those of you who read Sports Geek Reads Daily, or check out the blog, or you're on the email, or you've listened to the radio, listen to Rapid Rundown, the first 10 episodes of that email never got published. The next, the first 10 blog posts that we did never got published. The first 10 audio podcasts we did never got published because they were all just internal. And so that's where, one, it's a good means to help build out your team from a testing point of view, but it's also a great way to get your team on board, both digital team, comms team, marketing team, board, across what's happening. They're starting to be your alpha and beta testers for this content. And that starts getting you that internal trust within your team, getting your team buy-in on having them understand that they're using the tools, they're starting to understand the tech, they're starting to see the opportunities. And the more people you're starting to, circulate what you're doing, the better it is. And it's not really, it doesn't sort of come as it doesn't come as a shock to the rest of the org when you're starting to produce some of that content. So they're the things that I would look at from a starting point. And it is that piece of iterate. AI needs feedback to get better. Again, to use the analogy, just like a junior staff member. If you give a staff member no feedback, guess what? They just keep doing what they're going to keep doing. And AI is no different. So as you develop out, here's how we do things. Here's how we like it to look. Here's how we like it to sound. Here's how we like it to appear. Here's our brand guidelines. Oh, we want this to be improved. The product and the content that will be produced will get better. And so that's definitely the opportunity of getting started, because you can't figure out how it could work for you until you get started. So that's a wrap on this special episode. I hope you got some insights on how content automation and AI could work for you. They're definitely working for us. So whether you're a major club with a digital department or a smaller org juggling social, CRM, and content all at once, the tools are there for both. It all comes down to what matters to you and how you apply them. My advice is to start small, start smart, but more importantly, start now. If you're unsure how AI fits into your content strategy, or even building your first workflow or how you could use it, that's exactly what we do at Sports Geek. In the same way that we helped sports understand the digital landscape as the social media wave came through 15 years ago, we're here now working with AI tools, working with automation tools, getting our geek on in understanding how sports teams and content teams can leverage what is now available with AI and automation. We're really excited what it can do for your club, for your content, for your fans, for your partners. And if you're interested in learning more, I'd love to chat to you. You can go to sportsgeekhq.com/AI to book a call. No obligation. Happy to chat about how we can help you and how we can help map out your AI journey together. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed this format. It was a little bit of a change, a little bit of a shift. And as you know, the AI version of me is always up for a chat. Only kidding. You will get me if you do book in for a call, but that is a fun idea. Maybe I should build a chatbot that will answer questions live. But that's the fun thing. Those opportunities are opening up all the time. My name is Sean Callanan, and you've been listening to Sports Geek.
Thanks for your listenership. We are closing in on 1M downloads, and the Sports Geek YouTube channel is growing steadily. At Sports Geek, we love working with podcast listeners. Please get in touch and see how we can help you. Go to sportsgeekhq.com/phone call. All Sports Geek episodes are just a click away available at sportsgeekhq.com.